Welcome to AgencyRise, the podcast where digital marketing agencies rise together. I'm your host, Chris Rudolph, and I've spent over a decade coaching digital agency founders, helping them scale, systemize operations, and break free from the day-to-day grind. So on this podcast, we'll talk about what really moves the needle for agencies, getting clients, building a team, creating systems, pricing and positioning, focus, and freedom. There's no hype here, no guru nonsense, just real conversations from people in the agency trenches. So without further ado, today I'm joined by AJ Wilcox, founder of B2 Linked, one of the most respected LinkedIn ad agencies in the world. AJ has helped B2B companies avoid waste on ad spend and build predictable growth by doing one thing exceptionally well, LinkedIn ads. So AJ, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me on, Chris.
Yeah. And for those of you who aren't familiar with you, I know you're out there. You have your own podcast. You speak a lot. You do a lot of thought leadership. But for those who aren't familiar with you, tell us a little bit more about you and your agency.
Yeah, sure. So we just turned 11 years old back a few months ago. And as a guy with ADHD, I never thought I would stick with anything this long. This really came about because at a previous company, I went in with search engine optimization and Google Ads experience. And on my very first day, the CMO was like, hey, we just started a pilot using LinkedIn ads, see what you can do. And I didn't want to look stupid to my new boss. So I jumped in and started playing with the platform. And long story short, over the next 2.5 years, I grew that to become LinkedIn's largest spending ads account. And the whole time I was looking around going, why is no one talking about LinkedIn ads? This is producing incredible results. And so after leaving that company, I realized, I should probably start something. And so I started B2 Linked. We're an ad agency that LinkedIn ads is all we do.
That's amazing. And that, to be dialed in on one thing for that long is amazing. Did you ever get tempted to diversify or go into any other directions, or was it always just sold out on LinkedIn ads?
Pretty much sold out. I've had ideas like, hey, we could really scale into a bigger agency if we also did Google ads and also did Meta and all those kinds of things. But we've stayed so busy just with LinkedIn that it never made sense to try to expand. But I think it's possible. I don't know. It hasn't turned me on yet.
Yeah, no, I love that focus. That's something that I make a big emphasis when I talk to agency founders of narrowing on your niche and becoming like the expert in one area. So well done for doing that. I know it's got to be tempting, you can look at going more full service and, to potentially do more. But yeah, that's obviously really paid off for you really well. I know, very few people that I meet in the agency world went to university for this type of thing. So I'm curious, what did you do before your agency that kind of led you to this? What kind of training?
I did get my degree in marketing, but back when I got my degree, all of the classes I took and my whole degree was assuming that I was going to go into a Madison Avenue agency doing billboards and a magazine and, that kind of advertising, and digital marketing really didn't exist at the time. But I was actually doing computer tech support for a job, and I've always loved computers. And in one of my marketing classes, we had a guest lecturer come in and talk about SEO. And as he was talking, I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. This is technology plus marketing. Yes, please. And so that started my career trajectory. When I went up after class and I begged this poor guy for an internship, please teach me SEO. And then, so it goes. Went kind of in-house and agency, a couple places doing both advertising and organic search, and just really landed on LinkedIn because no one else in the world was talking about it. And I realized how important it was.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's really good. What you did, when you asked, begged for an internship is something that I am a big fan of find somebody who's doing what you want to do or that you can really grow from and just boldly ask them for help. And I just find that sometimes, we always, that voice in our head says hey, why would they ever talk to me? But those other people that have been successful, somebody helped them or multiple people helped them along the way. So I love how you boldly did that and just look what it catalyzed.
Yeah. Well, and anytime someone is just as excited about your business as you are, they really stand out. So bring the passion. And I think business owners are going to say, okay, how can we work together if you've got the same passion I do?
Yeah, that's good. So if you had to start your agency from scratch today, what would you do differently?
I did about everything I can think of wrong, but I think I would just do everything faster. For example, when I started my own agency, I realized I was doing it because I'm really good at LinkedIn ads, but I'm not a good sales guy and I'm not an operations guy and I don't know systems and I don't do my own accounting and all of that. And so, going into it, I had to kind of stumble over all of those different aspects of the business and just make decisions so much slower. But I think right from the beginning, I would outsource my accounting and finance to someone who knows what they're doing, get that off my plate.
Yes.
I would, realistically, sales, even though I don't like it, founder sales is something very different. And so I would probably keep that rather than handing that off. Just provide value to as many people as possible, as fast as possible. That has been the growth catalyst for me. Yeah, when I very first started out, I had a really good friend who, when he heard that I was starting something, he made a whole bunch of introductions to a bunch of his friends, and that was awesome. But one of these introductions got me in a conference room and sat across the table and kind of folded her arms and said, okay, pitch me. And up to that point, I'd had 100% close rate, probably because I didn't know how to price. But when she said that, I was like, oh, okay, well, let me put a sales pitch together. And I burned and realized, okay, I am not a sales guy. What I can do, though, is be a marketer and provide value, share what I know, share my passion, and share it as freely as possible. And if I do a good job at that, there's going to be a certain number of people who say, thanks for the tips, I'll take it from here. But some are going to say, hey, that actually sounds really complex. What's it going to take to have you come and do that for us? And in enough time of providing enough value, I found that was the case. I was able to grow my agency really nicely from just the people who appreciated what I was sharing. Early on, that was like, come present on a webinar for us. And I got a couple of big clients that way. And, things like come on our podcast, come on my show. A YouTube channel was really big for us. And then eventually starting my own podcast, just to, again, share what I know and share it openly. Those, I think, are some of the best ways. And of course, social media.
Yeah. Awesome. And thinking of your agency, like what have been some of the most difficult lessons that you had to learn along the way?
I think the most difficult is, as a business owner, has been running out of money. So I'm a very kind person. And I had employees who were taking advantage of me and taking advantage of the company. And we got to a point where my CFO basically said, hey, you can't be Mr. Nice Guy anymore. Like, we're not going to be able to make payroll in two payments. And I went, okay, I have to actually do something. And so that caused me to kind of scrap everything. This was back in 2023 and really rebuild the agency from the ground up. So those lessons of like, oh, when someone needs to be let go, you're not doing them a favor by letting them stick around or trying to fix them.
Like what's working really well right now for you and your agency?
I think some of the best, it's old school, but YouTube. When I'm sharing podcast episodes, there's a specific kind of person who is willing to hop on and listen to 30 to 60 minutes worth of content. So not everyone is going to listen to podcast episodes, but when I post little short Q&A videos, little how-tos, and I post them to YouTube and it's less than 5 minutes, there's this whole other audience who's willing to consume that stuff. Sharing on LinkedIn organically has been historically huge. In the last few years, I'm sure you talk to a lot of people and you're experiencing this yourself where LinkedIn reach isn't what it used to be,
yes.
But it's still working great. Even though fewer people are seeing the posts, it's still getting the word out. So I think those are my two big levers.
And, from an agency standpoint, what's not working well right now or just frustrating you like no other?
This is really interesting to say as a LinkedIn ads agency, but we've never really advertised on LinkedIn for ourselves. We just realized that agencies, like promoting an agency on advertising, is quite a bit different than a lot of our other clients' kinds of products and services. And so we never really dedicated enough to figure it out. We just had a lot of inbound coming in to fuel the agency growth. And so surprisingly, I'm sure there are other agencies out there who've nailed it, but surprisingly, the thing that doesn't work for us is running our own ads.
That's wild. No, but I can see how that can make sense. It's like very, very specific to the service and the niche and the opportunity. So yeah, what are some of the trends that you're seeing for LinkedIn ads in 2026?
The big one is things going more personal. Here about 2 years ago, LinkedIn released a new ad format called Thought Leader Ads. And it's different from every other kind of ad they had because everything else was promoting a company's posts and Thought Leader Ads are promoting a person. And obviously that's a big ask for a big company to rope in like, hey, CEO, can we have you start posting things on LinkedIn so we can promote it? But the companies who figured this out have done a really good job, because when you share something from an individual, it usually gets 3 to 5 times the amount of attention as something coming from a company.
Mm-hmm.
And on an ad platform, when something gets 3 to 5 times the attention, oftentimes it's a lot less costly. So we're getting clicks, we're getting traffic, we're getting reach for a fraction of what it used to cost. So I'm all in on going personal now. Personal posts and oftentimes personal video.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. What else are you seeing on the LinkedIn ads platform?
I see a lot of people trying to move towards AI, because AI has made things so much easier and faster. And I don't have a specific data point for this, but I hear anecdotally and I see in myself, I think there's going to be a wholesale rejection of things that we can tell came from AI. Because when a company is communicating to you in a way that you can tell that it's AI, it feels cheap. It almost feels like you're not important enough to us to justify a real answer. We're going to automate our relationship.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm trying to avoid anything where you're automating a relationship or a conversation, and trying to go all in on give real attention from a real human. Probably not super scalable, but that's what I'm going for.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. What are, for those that don't live, eat, and breathe LinkedIn ads every day, what are some of the biggest myths out there around LinkedIn ads?
I mean, it's not necessarily a myth. It's kind of the truth. But when you talk to people about LinkedIn ads, the very first thing that they'll say is, oh, I've heard they're really expensive, or I tried them and they were really expensive. And that's certainly the truth. We see on Meta, I can go and pay like $3 to $5 per website click. And on LinkedIn, many are paying like $10 to $20 per click, which seems crazy. But the reason why it's not crazy is the quality of the targeting, the quality of the people that you're reaching. It creates a higher quality lead than any other channel can create. So to give you an example, we have a client who is running significantly on Meta and on LinkedIn. And when we very first started, I saw that the Meta cost per conversion was like a third of what it was that we were driving on LinkedIn. And I went, oh no, the client's going to fire us. What are we going to do? Until all of a sudden we look down the road and the sales team starts reporting that from Meta, because Meta doesn't know who someone is professionally, it's driving a bunch of cheap leads, but then the sales team has to throw out 90% of those leads. Whereas on LinkedIn, yes, we're paying 3 to 5 times more, but 100% of the leads get to stay. So if you actually look at a cost per closed deal, cost per proposal sent, all of a sudden LinkedIn is actually more profitable in most cases.
Oh, that's interesting. So I don't know if this is where my brain goes with that, because there is a higher barrier to entry for like the click, or that can scare away some of the competition. So is my thinking right, where like there's a big opportunity if you do it well?
Yeah. And I would say in the last 2 or 3 years, LinkedIn ads has grown so fast, and it's not because they implemented any one thing that makes the platform that much more worth jumping on. Mm-hmm. I think what happened is so many people tried out LinkedIn, didn't have success, and left, only to then come back at some point and go, all right, there is no other platform where I can target at scale these specific job titles in this industry at this size of company. You just can't get that anywhere. And so companies will come back a second or a third time and say, all right, we've got to crack this nut now. And I think that's probably what's happened in the last few years. But even still, I mean, you'll talk to a lot of B2B companies who have never even tried LinkedIn or aren't currently running. Yeah, that means it's a big opportunity for those who can get in and actually figure out what they're doing.
What's kind of trending as far as the creative for ads on LinkedIn?
Video. And kind of unsurprising, LinkedIn's really gone all in on video. But I tried video when it very first came out several years ago, and I just kind of said, it's too expensive, doesn't convert, whatever, and kind of moved on. But over the last couple of years, I've really embraced video because it is the cheapest way to get someone to have a real connection with a person, with a brand. We know you need that know, like, and trust factor with anyone that you're going to do business with. There's no faster way to do that than with video. And it creates incredibly cheap, educated retargeting audiences that we can then follow up with different ads. So I love leading with video, educating, teasing, nurturing, and then the people who've consumed that video then target with other ad types.
Nice. Nice. What software tools that you use that you can't live without?
For me, it's got to be Excel. I'm an Excel geek. So much. There are quite a few people who run LinkedIn ads, and they are happy to just manage all the LinkedIn ads just out of what you see in their campaign manager platform. But we run larger accounts, and I can't actually make sense of all the data just in the account. I need it in Excel, and I need to do my own custom calculations. So that's my long answer.
Okay, awesome. And what daily routines or habits do you swear by?
That's a really good question. In recent years, I've been working so much that my daily routine is just wake up, work, and then get off work. But uh, in the past, I relied on a morning workout. I needed to wake up, get my brain pumping, get blood flowing through my veins before I hit work. But now I work on a treadmill desk, and so I actually get that all day long. And so it's helped me I get blood pumping immediately and just work all day.
What have been some of the most influential mentors or role models for you along your journey?
I've had some really awesome mentors. One is a guy by the name of Alex MacArthur. He was the CMO of Purple, the mattress company that went ultra viral. And he was at a previous company. He was my boss's boss. And over time, we've just kind of stayed in contact. And then we started hiking every Saturday together. And then when it started snowing, he had the idea that was like, hey, I don't want to stop hiking. What if we get snowshoes and make it snowshoeing? And so
Nice.
that was several years of just every Saturday getting to just hear feedback from someone who is several steps ahead of where I've always been. And he's just amazing. Been a great friend and a great business confidant.
Oh, that's amazing. I love it. I love it. What would be, we've got an audience of lots of agency founders. What's one piece of advice that you would give to all the founders out there listening to this, even if it includes some tough love?
Invest in thought leadership. I know there are plenty of other ways to grow, but I could not have grown the way that we had unless I was out being a spokesperson for the agency, sharing what I knew and sharing freely. That kind of content has, over time, it just the more that you put out there, the more that you push and spin that flywheel. And, I got to a point where I actually ended up taking 4 or 5 months off of content creation. And even still, because I'd put so much out into the world of LinkedIn ads information and sharing, we continually get inbound leads coming in. And I keep having people say, wow, I keep seeing you everywhere. And even when I hadn't published in some time.
Interesting.
So yeah, put in the work, be a thought leader.
Even if you're not, active at that moment.
Yeah. And invest in stuff that's evergreen, that will live forever. It's really easy to post a video on LinkedIn or Facebook or something, but then, 2 or 3 days later, it's like that post doesn't exist. But if you took that same video and upload it to YouTube so it lives forever, put something into a LinkedIn article so it lives forever, then you actually have that possibility of people finding it through search later.
Nice. So if our audience wants to learn more about you and find out more about you and your agency, what's the best place to go to online?
Well, if you're a podcast listener, go tune into the LinkedIn Ads Show podcast. But follow me on LinkedIn. Even connect with me there. That's where I share so much of my best stuff, my thought leadership, and it's really easy to get in touch.
Well, AJ, thanks so much for coming on the podcast today. And for everyone who is tuning in from the gym, in your car, or at your desk, thank you. And if this episode was helpful for you, be sure to subscribe and share it with another agency founder who needs to hear it. Because agencies don't rise alone, they rise together. This is AgencyRise.